They will test you. Not once, not twice, but endlessly. People will press against your patience, your kindness, your silence. They'll look for cracks, even when you've done nothing wrong. It's not because they hate you. It's because they're measuring you. Human nature has always been drawn to testing boundaries. The quiet person in the room, the calm one, becomes the most tempting to push. And when you finally react, they know exactly how deep to dig next time. This is how power is lost, not through defeat, but through reaction. Machiavelli once wrote, "He who is easily offended exposes his weakness to those who seek to dominate him." And in those words lies the first truth. When you react, you reveal your limits. When you stay composed, you become unknowable. Lesson 1: The power of the shadow. A shadow never reacts. It watches. It absorbs everything, and yet gives nothing away. In the court of Florence, where Machiavelli studied kings and deceivers, he noticed one thing: the most powerful were never the loudest. They didn't rush to defend themselves or correct every insult. Their silence confused people, and confusion creates power. To respond like a shadow means you don't meet force with force. You let the other person expose their motives first. You let their aggression define them, not you. The shadow doesn't fight for control. It already possesses it. Affirmation: you do not need to prove your strength. Your silence is proof enough. Lesson 2: When emotion is a weapon, detachment is armor. People test limits not through logic, but emotion. They'll guilt you, provoke you, manipulate your empathy. Because emotion is the oldest form of control. Carl Jung warned, "When we are unconscious of our emotions, we become their instruments." The one who can stay calm while being provoked holds the upper hand. Not because he is cold, but because he understands the game. In business, in relationships, in politics, those who master emotional distance command every interaction. They see beyond the words and watch for intent. When you stop letting people pull your emotional strings, you start moving from the seat of power. Affirmation: feel everything. React to nothing. Lesson 3: The silent mirror. When someone tests you, mirror them with stillness. Do not explain. Do not argue. Simply observe. Machiavelli saw this used by princes who faced betrayal. They would not confront their enemies immediately. They'd let silence work like poison. The traitor would grow paranoid, expecting retaliation that never came. In that fear, they would often destroy themselves. When you become a silent mirror, people begin to see their own reflection, and many cannot stand what looks back at them. They start revealing more than you ever could have extracted through words. Affirmation: let them speak. Let them act. You already hold the truth in your quiet observation. Lesson 4: Never explain, never defend. Weak people defend every accusation. Strong people understand that explanation is often surrender. Robert Greene, in the 48 Laws of Power, warned, "By answering, you give your enemies more ammunition. Silence short-circuits their attack." To respond like a shadow means to starve conflict of oxygen. Your silence isn't avoidance. It's dominance through restraint. History remembers Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, who faced betrayal from those closest to him. He wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." He didn't defend. He acted. He didn't justify. He simply became undeniable. Affirmation: you don't need to tell the world who you are. You show it in your silence. Lesson 5: Turn the test into a study. Every person who tests you is revealing their own design. Their impatience, their manipulation, their fear. It all shows their blueprint. When people pressure you, they are giving you data. Each word, each reaction, each tone tells you how they operate. Machiavelli called this reading the hearts of men. He said, "To see whether a man is loyal, observe him when he thinks you are not watching." So when you're being tested, don't feel attacked. You're witnessing truth in its rawest form. The test is not about you. It's about them. Affirmation: let them test. Let them reveal. You learn while they expose. Lesson 6: The strategic delay. In chess, amateurs react to the first move. Masters wait, watch, and strike when the board is open. Machiavelli believed that timing was the essence of control. He advised rulers to never act in anger, for rash decisions are gifts to the enemy. When people test your limits, delay your response. The longer you wait, the clearer the truth becomes. There is strength in restraint. Because silence doesn't mean surrender. It means calculation. Affirmation. I move when the time is right, not when provoked. Lesson 7. The invisible power of unpredictability. The moment people can predict your reaction, they can manipulate it. Predictability is the death of power. Unpredictability, quiet, strategic, deliberate, is what keeps them off balance. Machiavelli admired leaders who could shift between warmth and coldness, depending on what power required. He said, "A prince must learn to act as both beast and man," meaning, be capable of kindness, but never reliant on it. When someone tests you, surprise them. Respond with calm when they expect rage. Respond with silence when they expect justification. That confusion protects you. It creates psychological distance, and distance is control. Affirmation. I am calm, unreadable, and unshakable. No one can anticipate my strength. Lesson 8. The art of absence. There's power in disappearing. When people test you, they expect a show, conflict, emotion, validation. But when you withdraw your presence completely, you starve them of control. Machiavelli studied this tactic in politics. He observed how absence could build demand, how silence could turn into fear. He wrote, "Men value most what they cannot easily possess. When you remove yourself emotionally, physically, or mentally, you become rare. And rarity creates respect. In a world addicted to reaction, your absence becomes a mystery. Mystery becomes allure. Allure becomes influence. Absence doesn't mean weakness. It means you've evolved beyond needing their attention to prove your worth." Affirmation. I do not chase validation. My silence speaks louder than their noise. Lesson 9. The controlled flame. Anger is energy. Uncontrolled, it burns everything. Controlled, it becomes fuel. When people test you, your first instinct is to fight back, to show strength. But real power is in channeling that emotion, turning rage into refinement. Jung once said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." To control your anger is not to suppress it, it's to understand it. Let it sharpen your vision. Let it harden your patience. Every insult becomes a whetstone for your discipline. Every slight becomes a lesson in endurance. Fire contained within a furnace creates steel. Fire let loose destroys the smith. Affirmation. My anger serves me. I never serve it. Lesson 10. Psychological distance is power. The closer someone gets to your emotions, the more control they have over you. Distance doesn't mean coldness. It means clarity. Machiavelli believed rulers should keep both allies and enemies close enough to study, but never close enough to influence their judgment. Emotional distance lets you see people as they are, not as you wish them to be. When someone tests your boundaries, it's easy to think, if I just explain myself, they'll understand. But that explanation hands over your emotional map, your triggers, your values, your fears. They learn your weak points through your transparency. The solution. Stay kind, but unreadable. Engage with warmth, but never expose the core. Because once people can predict how you'll feel, they can dictate what you'll do. Affirmation. I am kind, but not transparent. I connect, but never depend. Lesson 11. The shadow learns from every attack. When people test you, it's not always malice. Sometimes it's revelation. The world is showing you where you still overreact, where your ego still bleeds, where your emotions still control you. Machiavelli understood that enemies are great teachers. He wrote, "The wise man does at once what the fool does finally," meaning learn fast from conflict. If someone manipulates you once, analyze it. Study the pattern. Identify what emotion made you vulnerable: guilt, pride, validation. Turn every test into a map of your own evolution. You'll begin to see patterns that once blinded you. And soon, you won't just avoid manipulation, you'll anticipate it. Affirmation. Every test sharpens me. Every attack teaches me. I evolve in silence. Lesson 12. Become the shadow they can't touch. When you respond like a shadow, you become both present and untouchable. You're there, but they can't pin you down. You speak little, but your presence commands the room. Machiavelli admired those who could blend humility with mystery, leaders who could appear ordinary while wielding extraordinary control. He warned that it is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. But the modern version of fear isn't terror. It's respect. It's the calm certainty that you cannot be manipulated. The shadow walks among chaos untouched because it understands human nature, the craving for control, validation, and reaction. But once you stop feeding that hunger, people lose their grip on you. Respond like a shadow. See everything. Say little. Move when it matters, and when you do, let it be final. Affirmation: I am calm under fire, invisible under pressure, and untouchable in silence. Lesson 13: The long game of power. Short-term thinkers crave reaction. Strategic minds play for endurance. Machiavelli warned rulers never to confuse impulse with strength. He believed time reveals all things, and patience destroys more enemies than confrontation ever could. When people test you, let time be your ally. Watch how they act when you don't respond. Watch who reveals loyalty in your silence. Power grows in the unseen, in the long shadows of your restraint. You win not by defeating others, but by mastering yourself. Affirmation: My silence builds empires. My patience wins wars. Lesson 14: The weight of reputation. Your reaction defines your reputation more than any words you speak. When you explode, people remember your weakness. When you stay composed, people remember your control. Machiavelli understood that image often outweighs reality. He said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. Your calmness, your shadow-like demeanor, it creates myth. People begin to respect you not because of what you say, but because of what you withhold. When people test your limits, you're not defending yourself, you're building your legend. Your silence becomes your weapon. Your composure, your armor." Affirmation: I am building my legend through control, not reaction. Lesson 15: The final shadow. Responding like a shadow doesn't mean hiding from the world. It means mastering it, quietly, deliberately, with grace and precision. Every insult, every betrayal, every test, these are invitations to evolve, to become less reactive, less desperate to be understood, and more aligned with power, discipline, and peace. Machiavelli's wisdom wasn't about cruelty. It was about survival through strategy. He taught that to rule yourself is to rule your world. And in a world of noise, the one who remains silent rules all. Affirmation: I am the shadow. I see, I wait, I rise untouched. Conclusion: the shadow's crown. When people test your limits, they are trying to find the edges of your strength. Your task is to show them there are none. Not through argument, not through rage, but through the stillness that terrifies manipulators and inspires the wise. Be like water, formless, calm, unstoppable. Be like the night, vast, quiet, commanding. And when the world tests you, respond like a shadow, silent, strategic, and unbreakable. History repeats the same lesson. Those who master their emotions command those who cannot. Every era, every kingdom, every empire, power has always belonged to the one who stays calm in the storm. To understand how to respond like a shadow, we must look back, because Machiavelli didn't write from theory, he wrote from chaos. He lived through exile, betrayal, and the fall of the Florentine Republic. He saw men rise through silence and fall through pride. And from that storm, he learned that survival was never about strength alone, it was about control. Lesson 16: The Prince Who Played the Shadow. In the early 1500s, Cesare Borgia became the living embodiment of Machiavelli's philosophy. He was charming, ruthless, and frighteningly patient. When his enemies plotted against him, he didn't respond in anger, he observed. He allowed them to feel safe, to believe they had won. And then, with surgical precision, he dismantled them, one by one. Machiavelli studied him closely and wrote, "I do not know what better teaching to give a prince than the example of Cesare Borgia." Borgia understood that reacting instantly gave power to others. But waiting, observing, and striking once, that made him untouchable. To respond like a shadow is to understand the rhythm of time. You move when it serves you, not when emotion commands you. Affirmation: I wait as long as needed. My patience is my weapon. Lesson 17: The Samurai of Stillness. Across the world, another philosophy mirrored Machiavelli's, the Code of the Samurai. The Bushido way valued composure under pressure above all else. To show fear, rage, or desperation was to reveal one's spirit was undisciplined. One story tells of a samurai who was spat on by his enemy just before executing him. The samurai wiped his face, sheathed his sword, and walked away. When asked why, he said, "I was angry, and if I struck him in anger, it would not be justice, it would be vengeance." That restraint, that moment of stillness, is what separates the powerful from the impulsive. The shadow understands that reacting from emotion always serves the other. Reacting from calmness always serves the self. Affirmation: I never act in emotion, I act in truth. Lesson 18: The Corporate Shadow. You don't need to live in a palace or wear armor to apply Machiavelli's wisdom. Modern power lives in offices, boardrooms, and digital spaces. Imagine this: you're in a meeting. Someone undermines you subtly, skillfully. They question your work, your ideas, maybe even your intelligence. Most people would rush to defend themselves, to argue, to reclaim respect. But that's exactly what the manipulator wants: your reaction. Because once you react, you confirm their influence. Instead, the shadow listens. You meet their words with stillness. You let the silence stretch until it becomes uncomfortable. Then you speak slowly, briefly, and with clarity. That silence doesn't show weakness, it shows authority. People remember calmness more than arguments. In a world addicted to instant reactions, composure becomes rare currency. Affirmation: I control every room I walk into by mastering my silence. Lesson 19: The Power of Emotional Minimalism. We live in a time where everyone overshares thoughts, emotions, pain. And the more people expose, the more predictable they become. Predictability kills mystery, and mystery is the soul of power. The shadow practices emotional minimalism. It doesn't mean suppressing emotions. It means mastering expression. Show warmth when it builds trust. Show indifference when it protects your peace. You don't owe the world your emotional map. Machiavelli would say, appear humane, faithful, and religious, but know when to act contrary to these. Not as deceit, but as strategy. Because too much openness invites exploitation. Control what you reveal. Choose what you express. That's how leaders, lovers, and legends maintain their influence. Affirmation: I choose when to reveal and when to conceal. That is my power. Lesson 20: When silence becomes punishment. Sometimes the greatest revenge is disappearance. You don't curse them. You don't explain. You don't seek closure. You simply remove your energy and leave them to face the echo of what they lost. Machiavelli knew that absence could be a form of rule. He saw how kings who withdrew their favor left nobles scrambling to regain it. Your silence forces people to confront their own reflection, and most cannot handle that confrontation. When people test you and expect reaction, give them absence instead. Let them wonder. Let them question. Let them regret. Because silence creates space, and in that space, truth reveals itself. Affirmation: My silence is not weakness. It is their mirror. Lesson 21: The Paradox of Power. True strength looks like calm. True dominance feels like peace. It's not the loud voice, or the aggressive stance, or the public declaration of control. It's the one who doesn't need to prove anything. Machiavelli believed in what he called the appearance of virtue. Show the world enough to earn respect, but never reveal the machinery beneath it. That's the paradox. The more invisible your control, the more real it becomes. People who test you are expecting resistance. When you give them nothing, they lose orientation. Their strategies collapse because you're no longer playing the same game. Affirmation: I win by refusing to play their game. Lesson 22: The Modern Machiavellian. To respond like a shadow in the modern world is to master presence without exposure. You can be visible but not vulnerable. You can be kind but never easily moved. You can love deeply but never lose yourself in the process. Dark psychology is not cruelty, it's clarity. It's knowing that manipulation thrives where awareness is absent. It's understanding that silence and observation are the highest forms of strength. Machiavelli would remind us, the lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be both fox and lion. Be kind like the lion who walks unbothered. Be calculating like the fox who sees the trap before stepping in. That's the modern shadow, powerful, silent, and aware. Affirmation: I am the balance between the fox and the lion, wise and unshakable. Every human being will face the test. Someone will provoke you just to see if you'll shatter. Someone will betray you to measure how deep your forgiveness runs. Someone will challenge your calm, hoping you'll lose it. And every time you'll stand at the same crossroads, react and give away your power, or remain still and rise above them all. That's what it means to respond like a shadow. The anatomy of the shadow. The shadow doesn't speak to be heard. It moves to be felt. It doesn't seek validation. It radiates certainty. And its silence cuts deeper than 1,000 words. This path isn't easy. It demands mastery of self. Not just your words, but your heartbeat, your impulses, your hunger to be understood. Because those who can master their inner storms will never be shaken by the outer world. Machiavelli taught that control begins not in the palace or the battlefield, but in the mind. He said, "He who conquers himself is greater than he who conquers a city." To respond like a shadow is to conquer yourself, your emotions, your fears, your need for reaction. Lesson 23: When you become the observer. When you step back and observe, life slows down. You see people's intentions before their words. You see manipulation before it lands. You stop reacting and start reading. That's when you move from participant to observer, from pawn to strategist. And that shift changes everything. Because once you see the game, you can never again be trapped by it. People expect resistance, not awareness. When you see through their behavior, when you understand what drives it, they lose power over you. Affirmation: I am the observer. I see all. I remain unmoved. Lesson 24. Turn pain into precision. Being tested hurts. It exposes your insecurities, your boundaries, your patience. But that pain can serve you if you refine it. Every insult becomes data. Every betrayal becomes design. The pain teaches you what you value. And once you know what you value, no one can weaponize it against you. Pain refines character. Reaction destroys it. That's why those who embrace suffering without breaking often become the most dangerous kind of calm. Affirmation: I turn my pain into precision, not poison. Lesson 25. The shadow's discipline. Power without discipline collapses. Control without humility corrupts. Responding like a shadow means more than silence. It's a lifestyle of restraint. You don't speak every truth. You don't chase every victory. You move only when purpose demands it. Discipline means knowing when to engage, when to disappear, and when to let time reveal what words cannot. Because the shadow doesn't need to prove. It simply endures. Every insult fades. Every manipulator burns themselves out. And what remains is you. Steady, silent, whole. Affirmation: discipline is my peace. Restraint is my strength. Lesson 26. The unseen influence. The world underestimates the quiet ones. They mistake stillness for weakness, silence for submission. But history tells another story. The greatest revolutionaries, philosophers, and strategists, from Marcus Aurelius to Miyamoto Musashi, all learned to move unseen until the moment mattered. They knew that true power is invisible until it decides to appear. When you respond like a shadow, your presence becomes magnetic. People sense your control before you speak. They hesitate before testing you again, not because you threaten them, but because they feel something unshakable in your calm. Affirmation: my silence commands the respect my words never could. Lesson 27. The master of energy. Every confrontation is an exchange of energy. When people provoke you, they're trying to steal your focus, your calm, your control. Most people hand it over instantly, but the shadow never gives what it doesn't choose to give. You control where your energy flows. You decide what deserves a reaction. You decide what dies in your silence. Machiavelli would have said it this way: he who knows how to command himself will soon command others. If you can control your emotional current, you'll steer every interaction, not through force, but through gravity. Affirmation: my energy is sacred. I give it only to what builds me. Lesson 28. Become the storm and the stillness. Responding like a shadow doesn't mean being emotionless. It means choosing when to reveal your fire. Because a storm that lasts forever destroys itself, but a storm that strikes once reshapes the world. You are both the storm and the stillness. You are capable of depth and fire, peace and destruction, but always under command. The world tests your limits to see which part of you they can reach. But when they find nothing but calm beneath the surface, they realize they are facing something far greater than emotion. They're facing mastery. Affirmation: I am both storm and silence. Powerful, calm, and in control. Lesson 29. When you rise above the game, one day you'll notice it. Someone will insult you, and you won't feel the urge to defend. Someone will betray you, and you'll feel nothing but understanding. That's when you'll know you've stepped beyond reaction. You've become untouchable, not because you're cold, but because you've transcended the game itself. You no longer live in reaction, you live in awareness. You've seen through the illusion that control comes from dominance, comes from peace. That's when people start asking, why doesn't anything bother them? And that question, that uncertainty, becomes your quiet throne. Affirmation: I am beyond reaction. I rule through peace. Lesson 30. The crown of the shadow. To respond like a shadow is to live free from emotional slavery. You stop seeking validation, revenge, or recognition. You start acting only from purpose. Machiavelli's wisdom wasn't about manipulation. It was about evolution. To be strategic is to be self-aware. To be powerful is to be self-controlled. And to be unbreakable is to understand that peace is the highest form of dominance. The shadow doesn't live in fear of being misunderstood. It moves through life with quiet certainty. Unseen, unshaken, undefeated. Affirmation: I am the shadow, calm, patient, and unstoppable. Closing reflection. The final lesson. When people test your limits, they're not truly testing you. They're testing themselves to see how much chaos they can bring, how much control they can steal, how much peace they can shatter. But when you respond like a shadow, you hold up a mirror, and all they see is their own noise. This is the ultimate lesson of Machiavelli. Power belongs to those who need nothing from chaos. It belongs to those who do not flinch. It belongs to those who see, understand, and remain still. You don't need to be feared. You don't need to be adored. You only need to be centered. And once you master that, you'll walk through every storm untouched. Because when people test your limits, you'll no longer react. You'll simply smile, turn into shadow, and let them destroy themselves in the light they cannot control. Final affirmation: I am the shadow. I am peace in chaos, silence in noise, power in stillness. I do not chase. I do not react. I see everything. I move when it matters. And nothing, no test, no betrayal, no manipulation, can ever touch me again.